Hi friends, I hope you had a wonderful, safe holiday long weekend. I hope everyone was able to spend time with family and friends, to commune with nature a little bit, to give thanks for all of the bounty of the wonderful things that have been shared with and given to us in this life. And I hope that everyone took an opportunity to do a little research about the community that is the underlying soul of this nation and this great continent, and to read a little about the indigenous cultures, which we'll speak to a little bit as well through this conversation about Future Heritage Fund. But anyway, we'll backtrack a little bit. Y'all know I came from New Mexico. Not a very common place to come from. Nobody came from there. When I left there, I mean, anytime I traveled, but also just like when I grew up and left there as a teenager going to college and whatnot, nobody knew what New Mexico was or where it was, and now, only now do I meet people that have been there, that could pick it out on a map and that understand what a special and magical place it is. But it took me a long time through the jewelry making to come to an idea of how I could show and honor where I came from and the amazing, beautiful artistry and craftsmanship that really inspired me early on in terms of jewelry. Wearing, and then later jewelry design, and my approach to like honoring the materials that I work with, and to really thinking about how every little thing that is made by a human like contains the energy of the materials that are used and the person that made it. So not your average way to approach having a brand, because most people are just trying to get stuff made for cheap. But I really like to think about that, like with everything that we make, like where the materials come from, who's working on it, how we're communicating with those people, so the sourcing. It's all really important, because like the energy that goes into these pieces that we wear and keep on our bodies, and then we also imbue with our experience and our energies. I think it's really important that there's like a symbiosis and a love and a care that's taken with that. So, you know, when I'm coming back to the root of this with the Future Heritage Project, I thought for a long time about how I could honor my roots and show people the wonderfulness of the design, the timelessness of the design that comes from so many indigenous creators. And there are different, obviously, like stylistic approaches and materiality between different artists and within their different communities. So within the Dene community, there's a really, really strong use of like sand casting and turquoise and stone setting. Then you get to like Zuni Culture, which is one of the Pueblo tribes in New Mexico, and they do a lot of like little fine work with skinny stones like needlepoint and snake eyes, inlay. There's so many different techniques. There's a lot of really wonderful, wonderful things to be read about that. And actually, I'll post a few links here. But I think it's really cool to sort of take that, knowing that I was so privileged to learn and to encounter, and to try and find a way to like show it through my brand and through our channels and our outlets of the different stores, but also to really just to shine a light on this like incredible craftsmanship, this incredible history, and these beautiful materials. So speaking to that, within the Future Heritage Project, there are a few different categories of how I approach the jewelry, but I make pieces from vintage, often unsigned, pieces that I find that are damaged or ripe for reinvention. And then I also work with a few different living artists. One, for example, is Jasper Nelson, who I think is literally one of the most talented jewelry designers of our time. I think he's incredible. And I also, the sourcing of the turquoise itself to make pieces for my collection with my designs, super important to me as well, because turquoise is often extremely plasticized and treated and imported versus using stuff that's mined here, which was originally mined by the Native American communities that occupied parts of the Southwest where I'm from, all the way down into Mexico a little bit, up into Nevada. But it's a really, really beautiful, and again, the materials vary from place to place by color, and a lot of these mines are starting to run out of turquoise. So I think it's really important to honor the fact that these are also like limited resources. So I'll talk about the fund at the end. But first, I'm just going to walk you through a few different interesting things that kind of came from the inception of this collection. So this piece is one that I made for myself because I found this beautiful bracelet and it was damaged, much like this one is. It's all warped and wonky. It was missing stones. The stones that were there were damaged like this, not looking like beautiful, shiny, gorgeous turquoise anymore. So I took them off and replaced them with reclaimed champagne diamonds and these little gold settings, which are also made of recycled gold. And I love the idea that this is kind of like reprising this design and elevating it, and also like still honoring the workmanship and the original energy that went into making the piece. And, you know, to take something that really at this point, like someone would probably just scrap and melt down, but instead of letting that happen to it, like really reviving and like resuscitating and then making it into something new and improved and beautiful and elevated. And then, you know, being able to give back to the community as a result of selling those pieces. These, I think you may have seen, but these are part of a collab collection that I did with Hayward and Hopper. And these actually came from Dennis Hopper's concho belt. And I was able to work with them, which was wonderful, work with the estate and with Marin to take some of these pieces from the concho belt and make them into earrings. We did a ring, a necklace, and then, yeah, beautiful. We did some pieces on handbags with them too that were beautiful. But I love the idea, again, of like taking something that was owned and worn by someone that then carried that energy from the original maker through time. And now these are these beautiful pieces that someone could have. I wish it was me, but I can't keep them. And then another personal favorite, also one of my like everyday wears, are these Jasper Nelson pieces. I mentioned him before. He's Diné, so he's from the Navajo Nation. He's an incredible contemporary jewelry maker, designer, and silversmith. I don't know how he makes these. It's like totally over my head. Like if I had to like make one of these in order to get off of a desert island, I would fail miserably, no matter how long I had to do it, because I think he's invented a craft and honed his craft in a way that like it just blows my mind. I think he's an absolute genius. So whenever I come across his pieces, I buy them. He's hard to find. They don't have a lot of cell service out there in the middle of New Mexico. So he comes in and out of the radar, but whenever I see his pieces, I buy them because I think they're incredible. So you can see how magical these are. I go in and I have one of our amazing setters in New York City, who's also an artisan. It's like, that's the thing they do. If they set diamonds, that's like they're masters of their craft. And having them add diamonds to the designs, I just think it makes them so beautiful. Again, the diamonds are reclaimed, so it's part of like that sort of upward, the sourcing is like an upward motion instead of taking. And I'm able to then show the world more of Jasper Nelson, this artist that I so love and respect. And then when it comes to my designs, I get to have all these fun little turquoises that I go around and source because like really they're very rare, and they often, similarly to diamonds, are cut kind of based on the shape of the available material. So I'll show you a little bit up close some of these, but they're just so beautiful. Turquoise comes in a range of colors depending on where it's from and what the mineral content is. And also like they have this beautiful what's called matrix. Not all turquoise, some is like very clear, but generally when you get into bigger pieces in particular, there's matrix, which is that sort of spiderwebby look. That can usually be like an iron content, typically, but it's sort of, that's why it's black or sort of a reddish color, but beautiful. It's like the spider webbing can vary depending on the source, and also it sort of adds to it. They're like little teeny tiny paintings made by water and the world. And then once I have these gorgeous little things, I sit around and theorize about what I want to make from them. Like, for example, how pretty would it be if I was able to make this into a little pendant and put it on my chain? Or it could be a beautiful little ring. It could be one of our amulet necklaces. It could be a cool, like, one mismatched stud, or one of the drop earrings, which you'll see in our sketches. But yeah, love that. Sometimes they're even perfect for a theta or a bia. I'll show you this one up close too. This ring is obviously one of my absolute favorites. I like putting these in a stardust because I think it's really pretty to have the sparkly diamonds next to the turquoise. I just think it shows what a beautiful and precious and rare and important material this is. And I love highlighting it in that way, adding it to the gold and really sort of using it in an unusual way. And then my new favorite thing that I cannot wait to get one for myself sometime after Christmas are these, the cosmic bands. And it took me a long time to use the cabochon, these little cabochon turquoises, because typically people use the enhanced turquoise and it's coming from overseas and it's basically plastic garbage. And I won't put that in my jewelry. I just don't think it honors the material or the place in that way. So I waited until I could find a source for these cabochon turquoise and these really small, even teeny tiny little cabochons. And these are all like traceable sourcing, and they're just amazing gem quality. And I love that I can use this as an opportunity to express my little jewelry self, but also all in with this whole collection, from the pieces that I make to the turquoise reprised pieces to the contemporary artists that I add the diamonds to. The sale of these pieces sends money back to New Mexico. So 5 years ago, when I cooked up this idea, the whole of it was not just to use this jewelry or to leverage this artistry, but to show the world and then to sell these pieces and send the profits back to New Mexico. And I started the Future Heritage Fund with that mission in mind. And it's been 5 years this year, which I'm so thankful for everyone that's helped me along the way, because it was very complicated to learn how to make a nonprofit and to figure out where to disperse the funds, because there's so many amazing groups and organizations and opportunities to help people in the various communities in New Mexico, but also to really do it in a quantifiable and impactful way. So you can hear or you can read a little about it on the website, but I'll tell you some things that we do. But in the Taos area, I've worked with Amigos Bravos, which has done a lot of work on the in the watershed there in the Rio Grande, and in the Cienegas, which are kind of marshlands around it. They've done work to like repopulate the river otters there, which are vital part of the ecosystem. I grew up there, never knew there was otters, never saw one in my life. Probably because there weren't very many, and now there are, thanks to the work of that organization. I also work with the Institute of American Indian Arts, which I learned about through literally a Vintage Time magazine. I grew up in New Mexico and never heard of it. That's how good New Mexico is at advertising itself, even to its own constituents. So I learned about that art school. It's a liberal arts and studio art school. They have an amazing alumni list, which includes like Joy Harjo, who's like an incredible writer and poet. And they have a studio arts program that's turning out amazing sculptors and jewelry artists, even at this moment. And it's very inexpensive to give these students scholarships. So I work towards giving at least one scholarship every year to a student there. And yeah, and then there's a lot of other things like permaculture in Zuni Pueblo. And I've worked with Dig Deep, which is an incredible organization that for many years has been going out into Navajo Nation and helping to dig wells, because many people that live out there have no access to running water, much less electricity or internet. So it's just incredible work that they're doing. So I really try to find and connect with different groups that are doing amazing work for the communities there and for the preservation of the habitat there, because nature and community are just inextricably linked in a place like that. The desert is so beautiful and specific, and particularly in the north, you're in high desert altitude. It's like a very special part of the world, and there's a lot of resources, a lot of extraction going on there for gold and silver and copper, a lot of uranium and oil, natural gas, coal. So it's really important to protect that land, to protect the water there, to protect the habitat for all of the incredible wild animals. Like we literally have lions in this country, mountain lions. They're huge, bobcats, eagles, otters. It's like special little frogs that like live underground all year, and then they only come up once a year when it rains. I mean, there's so many amazing things that live in that place that is my heart. So I also work with people like Defenders of Wildlife because I like their attitude towards like protecting the wolves and habitat, just preservation at large. So anyway, long story long, Giving Tuesday. I wanted you to know that no matter what, I am always giving to these organizations that I'm always partnering with and supporting, and hopefully aggregating content for and broadcasting the news about other work that's being done, like incredible mutual aid that's being done by my friend Amy at Fort Kinship. There's so many, like Seeding Sovereignty, the Red House series. There's so many incredible organizations and individuals that are doing work in the indigenous communities and in the land in which we all share and inhabit. So it's important, I think, for everyone to take a little time to do their own research and find some things that inspire them, read about some of these incredible people and the work that they're doing. And if you feel so inspired, let's make you something beautiful that's either from Jasper or an antique piece or some of these incredible turquoises that I have. Sending so much love out to everyone. Thank you for listening.